Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of AndrewsFootball.com. Welcome to my video showing the 9th greatest Chief of all time. Last Monday, I revealed the 10th greatest Chief of all time. It was Otis Taylor. And this is my video revealing the 9th greatest Kansas City Chief of all time. This is one of my favorite players that I've ever seen play. He's definitely the fastest player on this list. Now, of all the players that I'm going to reveal, 1 through 10, this player's career is the shortest. But even though his career was short, his list of Chiefs records is not. He scored the most points in a game, most touchdowns in a game, most receiving touchdowns in a game, highest yard per carry average both in a season and in a career, most rushing yards in a game, the Chiefs' all-time leading rusher, all-time leader, highest all-time yard per carry average. This is an NFL record. Now, here's the thing. If you Google this, Michael Vick and Randall Cunningham are higher. And then Marion Motley is third on the list, but neither one of those players have more than 1,000 carries. And of course, Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham are quarterbacks. Marion Motley's a fullback who played in the late 30s, early 40s. He played fullback, less than 1,000 carries. So running backs with 1,000 carries, this player has the all-time NFL record for yards per carry average. And he also has the 8th highest single game rushing record, the 28th and the 39th. So out of the 39 games in the history of the NFL for single game rushing records, he has the 8th, 28th, and 39th. The only two players who can say they have 3 of the top 39 is Jim Brown, greatest running back who ever played, and O.J. Simpson. In case you haven't figured it out by now, the player I'm talking about is Jamaal Charles. And the one thing I want to emphasize with Jamaal Charles is that his career was really short. Now, he did play 9 years in Kansas City, but really he only really has 5 years that are really worth mentioning, because that's about 90 to 95% of his career is just 5 years. When he was drafted in 2008 by Herm Edwards looked at him as a third down back. Only started 2 games, used mainly as a kickoff return guy. In 2009, when Todd Haley brought him in, remember they had Larry Johnson, and the offense was going to go through Larry Johnson completely, but halfway through the season, remember they dismissed Larry Johnson, so they had to promote Jamaal Charles, who was also their main kickoff return guy. He had a 25.7 yard average and returned a kickoff for a touchdown. He did have, in that 2009 season, over 1,000 yards rushing, but he only had 10 starts. And then in 2010, they brought in Thomas Jones, who actually had more carries than Jamaal Charles. Now, in that 2010 season, Jamaal Charles had 1,467 yards. Let me say this again. Jamaal Charles had 1,467 yards rushing. And there was another running back on the same team that had more carries. That was a 6.4 yard average. Do you realize how crazy that is? But Todd Haley didn't view him as an every down back. In 2011, he was injured for only basically played in 1 game. In 2012, he had his highest rushing yardage total with 1,509 yards. But unfortunately, that Chiefs team only won 2 games. In 2013, that's when Andy Reid came here. I think this is Jamaal Charles' all-time best season. Now, he only had 1,287 yards rushing, but he had 12 touchdowns, a career high. But he led the Chiefs in receptions, reception yards, and touchdowns. So here's a guy who had 1,287 yards and 12 touchdowns rushing, but he's also the Chiefs' leading receiver, most reception yards, and was leader in receiving touchdowns. If you do remember that season, you'll mainly remember it for that awful Colts playoff game where Jamaal Charles had a concussion early in the first quarter. Of course, if he doesn't get that concussion, the Chiefs easily win that game, but it didn't happen that way. But due to how much they used him in 2013, In 2014, they sought to reduce his workload. Remember, they brought in Joe McKnight. Niall Davis had some starts. They also used DeAnthony Thomas, but he still had over 1,000 yards receiving and 14 total touchdowns. But essentially, Jamaal Charles' career consists of 2009, 2010, and 2012 through 2014. Just 5 seasons, 77 games, 61 starts. 1,170 carries for 6,416 yards. That's 5.48376 yards per carry. Nobody in the NFL has done better. But he also had 230 receptions for 1,985 yards and 17 touchdowns. So in those 77 games, he had 61 starts, 55 touchdowns, and 8,401 yards total. It's an average of 109.10 yards per game. The thing is with Jamaal Charles is that he literally had world-class speed. He ran track at Texas. He was an All-American in track. But what really stands out and what's really unique about Jamaal Charles is that on 3rd and 1, he got to carry. He was a tough runner in between the tackles. If you watched Jamaal Charles, you wouldn't know he weighed only 199 pounds because he ran so hard and he ran tough and he ran determined. He wasn't afraid of contact like most guys are that have that type of speed. He ran hard and he ran in between the tackles. He broke tackles. That's how he got a lot of those yards. And that's how he was the NFL. That's how he is the NFL leader in yards per carry, because he was able to break tackles. I can go on and on about all the great statistics about Jamaal Charles, but the one thing that I can't put a stat on and I can't emphasize enough is that at Arrowhead, how exciting he was to watch play. How, like, even if you had to go to the bathroom, even if you're about to piss your pants, you stayed in your seat if Jamaal Charles was on the field. There's lots of guys with full bladders that stayed in their seats because they wanted to watch Jamaal Charles run the ball. How the excitement that he brought to Arrowhead was something that cannot be put into a statistic. Just the pure excitement that he brought onto the field. How you just, at any point in time, he could do something amazing. But the reason why I have him ranked so low at number 9, there's 3 big reasons. Number 1, I already touched base on this, is he didn't play very long. He did spend 9 years in Kansas City, but basically he wasn't used as a rookie. 3 seasons were cut very short due to injuries. So basically he only had 5 seasons where he had 77 games, 61 starts. Number 2 is he didn't help the Chiefs get a ring. His highest rushing total for a season was in a season where they won 2 games. He helped get the Chiefs the 2 wild cards, but they lost both games. One he was obviously, injured in, that concussion game in 2013. But one of the criteria for breaking down the top 10 Chiefs of all time was, did he help you win? The answer is he really didn't. And number 3 is that he fumbled the ball. It's kind of funny because the 2006 Rose Bowl, arguably the greatest college football game of all time, Jamaal Charles was a freshman for that Texas team. In the 4th quarter, his last carry of the game, he actually fumbles the ball. Now, Texas recovers, but if they don't recover, that game's over. USC wins. Its 3rd national championship. College football history is rewritten, but ever since he was a freshman at Texas, he had an issue with fumbling the football. Is Jamaal Charles the greatest running back in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs? Abso-freaking-lutely. But did he put the ball on the ground? Yes. He was very exciting, but not always a good thing, because he did have a history of fumbling the ball. Now, do I think Jamaal Charles is underrated as a running back? Definitely, 100%. But one of the weaknesses to his game is that he fumbled more than the average running back. But my opinion is stated. I think he's the 9th greatest Kansas City Chief of all time. I think he's the greatest running back who ever played for the Kansas City Chiefs. But what do you think? Is Jamaal Charles too low on my list? Is Jamaal Charles too high on the list? Should Jamaal Charles even be one of the top 10 greatest Kansas City Chiefs of all time? What do you think? Now, next Monday, I'm going to reveal the 8th greatest Kansas City Chief of all time. So listen, if you're a subscriber to Andrew's Football, you already know you're one of the greatest people on planet Earth. All your wildest dreams are going to come true, but if you haven't done it already, there's this button right down here. See it, see it, see it, see it. Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Wait till next Monday when we reveal the 8th greatest Kansas City Chief of all time. Live streams tomorrow at 7. So, hey, I'll see you tomorrow.